be here. So let me tell you, this is my 54th county I've been to. Out of 67 counties. Everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Good. Now, I always start out using the American Sign Language because it starts the beginning of my life. I was born premature at 26 weeks. And back in the 80s, technology wasn't what it is today. I had bleeding in the brain, undeveloped lungs. For the first 2 years of my life, I spent 13 days at home. So at age 3, when I came home from the hospital, I wasn't vocalizing. In fact, I couldn't even speak until I was 5. So I do stutter, I mispronounce words, but I am talking today. So I always like to acknowledge the deaf community, because as I travel the state, it's a large community that's always being left out at events, at different things going around the state. So I always like to acknowledge that as well. So what I stated was, I'm Roy David Walker, a Democrat scientist running to be your next Commissioner of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, about the position, and what I'm looking to bring in. Now, I'm an environmental scientist. I have a bachelor's in environmental science, a master's in environmental policy and management, and over the years, I was a environmental scientist or biological scientist or some kind of a scientist field with the Department of Correction. I'm running for that. With the United States Geological Survey, the National Park Service, and Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission. Back in 2015, as a biological scientist working for the state of Florida, I wasn't allowed to say the word climate change. I really wasn't, even in my reports. They got sent back to me to rewrite. So I'm like, this isn't science. This is making data fit policies that they would like to pass. That's anti-environment, that's anti-consumer based. This is one of the main reasons why I'm running today. Now, I was agitated as a scientist, having politics and with my data. So I respectfully resigned from my post with the state of Florida. And since 2015, I've been advocating. I've been to Washington, D.C., I've been to Tallahassee, advocating for our environment, or conservation, or soil, or air, or water. All water, that's our livelihood. And I'm gonna start off with that, because agriculture water policy falls underneath the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Now, yes, the Army Corps of Engineers controls the flow of the water from the Gulf to the ocean. But the runoff aspect coming off the agriculture industry, the runoff coming from the urban industry, from the cattle industry, and from the other side, which is also urban. That all falls underneath agriculture. And right now, underneath the current administration, within the past 20 years, this is the reason why it's so important that we know that we need someone in Tallahassee who knows what they're talking about. Because this blue-green algae, I'm going to answer your question, if that's okay.
Yes, please do.
This blue-green algae that's happening, it's feeding the red tide on that coast. And so that's why the red tide is so harsh. And that's why we have these sea turtles, over 400 already, manatees, fish, dolphins. All these mammals and fisheries are washing up the shores. And that's because of the red tide that's feeding on the blue-green algae. Now, this blue-green algae is coming from the canals in Okeechobee. Now, I mentioned the different areas pumping water into Okeechobee, the pollution is from all sides. It's not just the agriculture industry, but they play a large role, as well as different areas around the lake. Now, what I'm looking to do as commissioner is bring in more inspectors, as well as environmental law enforcement, which the department currently has. Inspectors and environmental law enforcement, certified state officers, to hold those accountable. Now, I'm not looking to make extreme policies so that the agriculture industry cannot thrive. What I'm looking to do is enforce the current policies that are currently on the books, to work with the different industries so that, yes, they can still grow, but we won't be suffering, so that people won't be getting sick on the coast, so that areas around the Okeechobee won't get sick or go to the hospital when they start burning sugarcane. There are sustainable methods to harvest different industries. Now, this is why it's such important to bring the best management practices back into agriculture. Rather than making it a voluntary aspect, let's make it something that, so that we can increase the standards, if you will, and hold these corporations accountable, which in return will be less pollution, less runoff, which goes into our canals, which causes the blue-green algae. Then the Army Corps of Engineers open up the dikes, the water gates, and then that's the flow. If you go back from the waterways or coastal communities, which affects our tourism industry is $89 billion. Agriculture as a whole is a $20 billion industry. Yes, tourism does not fall underneath agriculture, but yet what's happening within the agriculture industry is affecting our coastal communities. It's affecting tourism. It's affecting restaurants, small restaurants, family-owned restaurants, hotels, different water sports all throughout their coast. And these are businesses that people thrive on tourism. Now, yes, tourism isn't part of agriculture, but it plays a role. So I'm looking to have these standards currently in place in the state of Florida by working with different industries. And I will be doing that by bringing in more inspectors and more environmental law enforcement to making that happen. Now, the citrus industry. You know, I was driving here today, going down the back roads here. I'm seeing many acres and acres of just dead citrus, orange trees. And it's heartbreaking because I've been all over the state, and what I'm seeing here is what I'm seeing in Central Florida. I'm seeing this all over the state. And the current administration, Commissioner Alapano, is blaming this on the last hurricane. And yes, he's correct. That does play a role, but it's not the main source. It is not the main source. Now, yes, of the last hurricane, the citrus industry lost billions and billions of dollars. And what Alapano did was went up to DC and retrieved $25 million from DC. And that went straight towards the citrus industry, but not to the smaller growers, to the bigger businesses. And that's an issue. It's a big issue. Because what's happening right now is those small growers are closing the gates because they cannot get ahead. They can no longer make ends meet. So they're selling to the highest bidder. So now these acres of fields are for sale. In fact, this one over here I saw was for sale. And so they're selling to shopping centers, parking lots, home divisions. And which is, I'm not saying that's bad, but what I'm saying, that's a $20 billion industry, the highest revenue maker within agriculture. $20 billion, it's for oranges. We are known for oranges here in the state of Florida. Now, what I'm looking to do as Commissioner of Agriculture is have a program in place to help these local growers get ahead. Have an emergency fund so that there is a hurricane. Instead of going to Tallahassee asking for money, we should be setting money aside. It makes sense. So this kind of a saving program, if you will, so that this money can go towards these industries. Because waiting for Congress to pass a budget, it's nonsense. It doesn't always work. So the state of Florida needs to protect their own interests. And that's exactly what I'm looking to do as next Commissioner of Agriculture. Now, citrus greening, I briefly touched on that. I'm gonna go in a little bit more detail. Citrus greening is a invasive beetle going from plant to plant, leaving a disease, if you will, a bacteria. And it's destroying the movement of water in the veins, like your blood veins, if you will. And when it does that, it compacts the veins and there's no water movement, and eventually it turns green and die, and the fruit becomes funny, and then it stops producing fruits. Now, there's no cure for it. There's no cure. I've been to the University of Florida talking to researchers. I've been to Polk County at the researching area where they're trying to find ways in the right direction. Now, I'm a scientist myself. And I cannot promise a cure to save this industry, but what I will promise is a step in the right direction. But what we have known now is that citrus greening is in our soil. So even if we remove the tree and put the new tree back in, it's still there. It will come back. It's been proven. And one way to clean the soil is actually growing hemp. Now, hemp, it's amazing. It's actually been proven in Europe as well as Homestead. There's a pilot program for growing hemp. Now, hemp would also hemp and marijuana are two separate things. I'll go to marijuana in a moment, but hemp, two separate things. Hemp will bring in a new source of revenue to the state of Florida, which will be a few billion, but also it will clean the soil. Now, I'm not saying that's a cure for citrus greening, because it's not. What I'm saying is that this is a step in the right direction. And this is the kind of things I'm looking to insert within the Department of Agriculture all over the state to grow our agriculture industry. Now, I mentioned medical marijuana a moment ago. Now, marijuana does not fall underneath the Department of Agriculture at all. It actually falls underneath the Department of Health. But I am for medical adult use as well as growing hemp. And I think that's a new industry that once it becomes legal from our elected officials making it into law, that it will be a new source of revenue for the state of Florida. And once it becomes a crop, it will fall underneath the Department of Agriculture. So please note, I am for it. I do believe that's a source of revenue. But this Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services is so much more than agriculture, just as important as consumer services. And consumer services over the past 20 plus years, well, for the past year actually, we became #1 in fraud. I've been a victim myself. We became #1 in identity theft. I've also been a victim as well. And most of that's taken place at the gas pump. When you insert your credit card at the gas pump, always give it a jiggle before inserting. Because they have these 3D printers, they make these little device that goes onto the readers. But also, technology has advanced. And this is where science comes in. Because we have the technology here in the state of Florida to prevent this. But we're not inserting these policies, these programs in place. I'm looking to do just that. Because what's happening is that they're opening up the gas pumps and inserting a device that would take your reader, your credit card information, and send it to miles away to a computer or a cell phone device. And that is where the identity theft is going. Now, having this technology that we already have, we all have these chips now, and that chip would actually prevent most of these transactions because bill won't be read on the little reader that's currently being inserted. But something as simple as having a security tape, if you will, just a piece of tape. It's yellow. 7-Eleven's has it right now, where they put it on the gas pump, and it's so simple, so very inexpensive. I'm not saying that's a solution. I'm saying that it's a step in the right direction, because something as simple as a tape, putting over that crack, if it opens and it's cut, it means someone's been inside and should not use that machine. Now, 7-Eleven currently has that. And I've been talking to them, and they're like, this is their way on trying to prevent fraud, identity theft. And that the gas pumps fall underneath the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Now, more information about consumer services is our lunches. Our school lunches fall underneath agriculture. The quality of food falls underneath agriculture. Now, what I'm looking to do for our school lunches is, listen, I grew up middle class. My mother is a teacher, a retired teacher. My dad's a retired fireman. Two respectable industries. But yet, growing up, my family struggled. They did. I was on this free and reduced programs. And the quality of food that I got then is worse now. It's worse now. And what I'm looking to do is work with the local farmers around the state of Florida. What's so amazing about the state of Florida is that we can grow food year-round. Year-round we can grow food. And by working with our local growers and farmers all over the state, which will, #1, increase their revenue, so they don't have to close up their gates, but also, just as important, is bring nutrition back into our school system. Having this program in place, it's so affordable that lunches in all 67 counties could be free by inserting this program. So, in a nutshell, I talked a little about myself as a scientist. I talked about the citrus industry, school lunches, and fraud. Now, I'm only mentioning a few things, but please note that this position is huge. It's a $1.8 billion budget. It's a huge budget, and I'm looking to bring in more inspectors, more state law enforcement agencies, more scientists, more, so many, it's huge. So, So in a nutshell, nonprofits fall underneath. Fraud, the do not call list. The do not call list. How many are on that list? Exactly. The do not call list. Now, now, this is a good program, but what's wrong with this program right now is the fact that the Department of Agriculture is regulating us, the consumers. Now I'm looking to reverse that and start regulating the corporations, putting them on that list so they can be held accountable when they break state and federal law. So by having this program in place, well again, would help reduce the fact that people are being ripped off through phone calls, even at the gas pump. Now, this ideally is a huge, huge position, and I am the person for this job. No matter on who you talk, on what side of the aisle you're on, Democrat or Republican, I'm the one of the most experienced to making sure that this gets done correctly. And I'm not being held accountable to special interests. I actually have not taken no money from special interests. In fact, I have declined more money than I took in. Because I'm not looking to be held accountable to them. I'm looking to be held accountable to all of us and all Floridians. As I travel the state to 54 counties now, I'm so glad about that number, it went up. I've been passing out this seeds. I left a few on the table. And what this seed is the golden tickweed. It's the state wildflower. And the state wildflower, what's so amazing about this little flower, it's not a sunflower, it's a small little plant, yellow flowers, is that it helps the honeybees and butterflies. And the honeybees is like the foundation of agriculture. That's a $120 billion industry that you're holding in your hand. So I ask that everyone go home, help me grow this seed so that together we can grow Florida.